call. As one of the members of Congress who represents San Diego, I do feel a responsibility to highlight, as Mr. Trump visits, how dangerous this candidacy really is and how out of step his policies and his rhetoric are with the people I represent. Simply put, he cannot be our next president. I'm going to touch on a couple of aspects of his attitudes toward working people and then national security, and then I'll turn it over to Nathan. For starters, let's talk about the housing crisis, the recent housing crisis. From the end of 2007 to 2012, more than 500 families lost their homes in California per day, many of them in San Diego. And in spite of this, Mr. Trump was cheerleading for a housing crash so that he could benefit financially. This is what he said about the bursting of the housing bubble. Quote, "I sort of hope that happens because then people like me would go in and buy." End quote. Yesterday he doubled down on this and said, quote, "This is the kind of thinking our country needs." This is clearly someone who's not in touch with what's on the minds of hardworking Americans and is looking out for himself. I'd also, on that point, mention the comments he's made on minimum wage. Yesterday marked the 9-year anniversary of the last time the federal minimum wage was raised. And I think folks know that California is ahead of the federal government on this today. But on March 25th, 2007, President Bush signed into law the Fair Minimum Wage Act, which raised the federal minimum wage to $7.25 an hour. And while we know that Republicans across the country are opposed to raising the minimum wage to even $10, and California's going up to $15, Mr. Trump is really out of touch on this. He thinks wages are, quote, too high, and that a federal minimum wage shouldn't even exist. This is just absolutely flat wrong. No one who works full-time should have to live in poverty. And the fact that he doesn't get that is another example of really how out of touch it is with hardworking Americans and working families. And then the other point I wanted to touch on was national security. I'm a member of the House Armed Services Committee, and keeping America safe is my top priority. It's also a cause close to the heart of San Diego, which is a Marine Corps and Navy town, and we're proud of our role as a partner in the national defense. America needs a robust, well-funded Department of Defense that maintains the country's military as the strongest in the world. And we also need a smart strategic approach to defeating ISIS and all terrorism that relies both on military might and diplomacy, so that we don't get ourselves dragged into another civil war. And that's what makes the rhetoric coming from Mr. Trump so dangerous and reckless. He would undeniably make our country less safe. He has no foreign policy experience, is relying on his own misinformed ideas, and in his own words, he's, quote, good brain, instead of seeking the advice of well-respected experts. He wants to know more about ISIS and the generals. Those are his words, which is ridiculous. It's offensive to our military commanders. And he's recommended that the U.S. commit international war crimes. He's threatened to pull back from our most important military alliances like NATO, to pull aid from Israel, our most important ally in the Middle East, all this while gushing praise for dictators. He's refused to rule out using nuclear weapons on European territory. He wants to allow countries that don't currently have nuclear weapons to get them, which is the reverse of long-held goals internationally, certainly in the United States, of nuclear disarmament. This cannot be the future commander-in-chief. To wrap up, I'd like to reiterate that Mr. Trump's values and beliefs do not align at all with the people of San Diego, certainly not with the people of San Diego, with the people of San Diego, not with the people of California. He's dangerous, he's divisive, and while Californians are tolerant, inclusive, and compassionate, we don't think it's okay to call our Mexican neighbors rapists and drug dealers. We don't think it's okay to ban our entire religion from entering our country. We in California embrace an America that was founded on the principles of religious freedom and a nation of immigrants, an America that is great now but will suffer enormously if Mr. Trump becomes president. I wanted to switch a little bit and just talk about the group of Americans who've made ours the most Americans who've made ours the most military in the world, and that's the men and women who serve in the armed forces. San Diego has one of the largest populations of veterans in the country, and I want to turn this over to my good friend, Marine Corps combat veteran Nathan Fletcher. Nathan served 2 tours of duty, one in Iraq and one in Africa, and among many other accommodations served the Global War on Terrorism Expeditionary Medal. Nathan, why don't you take from here?
Hey, thank you, Congressman Peters, and thank you for everything you do for us in the United States Congress. I want to reiterate a lot of the things that were just said, and from a different perspective, from that of a veteran. As a Marine Corps combat veteran, who proudly served and who continues to fight for veterans every single day. I agree wholeheartedly with Congressman Peters that Donald Trump would be a terrible president. And we simply cannot allow his brand of reckless divisiveness, of not telling the truth, to continue to go unchecked. He would be an absolute unmitigated disaster for veterans and for everyone who ever wore the uniform. He can say as much as he wants in a talk setting about how much he loves veterans, but the reality is the facts simply do not align themselves with that rhetoric. And as we head into Memorial Day weekend, where we're all going to be reflecting on service, and we're all going to be reflecting on those who wore the uniform and served, we simply cannot allow someone to get away with such a disastrous record for what he has said and done as it relates to veterans, and for what he has proposed doing in the unfortunate event that he were to be elected president. It's also important that we highlight this angle because it's reported that when he comes to San Diego tomorrow, he's going to unveil his Veterans Advisory Council, a group of people that will advise him on these issues. So I think it's really important that we address a few facts and that they be well known for the record. For instance, he has come under fire for simply lying about donated money to veterans. As you may recall, in January, he wanted to avoid a presidential debate. He didn't like standing on the stage with his other candidate. And so he decided to use veterans as a political pawn in his effort to not show up on Fox News, and he held a fundraiser where he claimed to have raised $6 million for our nation's veterans. He also stated that he was giving $1 million of his own money. But as has been widely reported now by the Washington Post, that simply wasn't true. The money had not been given, and it took him being called out on his lie for him to actually come back and do what he'd been claiming for months he'd already done. We also saw when veterans gathered outside of Trump Tower to protest him, which every veteran's earned the right to protest. Every American has the right to protest, but in particular, our veterans. When they came to express their First Amendment right, a right that they were willing to put their life on the line to defend, he went on a Twitter rampage against them, because that's what small people like Donald Trump do. You attack people who call you out on your record. You attack people who you even slightly disagree with, or point out the lies and things you're saying. And the simple reality is this, and veterans speak very bluntly, that Donald Trump doesn't deserve the honor of being our commander-in-chief. He doesn't deserve the honor of being the commander-in-chief for those who wear the uniform, and he doesn't deserve the honor of being the president of the United States to care for those who have left military service. He doesn't support the current GI Bill, which is the least we can do for those who serve, is help provide him an education. His chief policy advisor said he didn't see anything wrong with pushing the VA towards privatization. With this statement, that means the presidency of Donald Trump would push our veterans out of the care and treatment they deserve, out into the masses. I mean, imagine veterans have unique care. You're not going to take a veteran who has had their bones riddled with machine gun fire, who's lost limbs, who's suffering from massive post-traumatic stress, and give them a voucher and send them down to Walgreens to see the nurse. They need care that matches their injuries and their treatment and what they went through. And with Donald Trump, we simply wouldn't get that. Our veterans are not a tool to be profited on. They're a group of people to be honored and cherished and taken care of. And one of the most offensive things he's ever said, he's insulted our veterans by calling his womanizing and attempting to avoid contracting sexually transmitted diseases in the 70s as his own personal Vietnam, somehow equating the two. He attacked Senator John McCain, a member of his own party, who said he's not a hero because he was captured, a man who was shot down, a man who gallantly refused to be released when offered the opportunity because he was standing in solidarity with his fellow prisoners, and someone like Donald Trump said that's not a hero. Donald Trump said he would give an American POW who we have retrieved, he'd give him back to the Taliban. He implied that he should have been shot. Donald Trump tried to kick homeless veterans off of the street in front of Fifth Avenue property. He didn't try and get them off the street and into housing, or get them off the street and into healthcare treatment. He tried to kick them off the street because he didn't want to be bothered with seeing the problem. And I could go on and on, but the simple fact is that Donald Trump isn't someone who veterans can count on. He isn't someone that military family members can count on, and he isn't someone the American people can count on. And that's why we have to make sure that one of the two Democratic candidates gets elected in November. Both of those candidates understand we have to look out for veterans. Both of our candidates understand we have to treat everyone with respect and dignity. And unlike Donald Trump, both of our candidates have the judgment and temperament to be our next commander-in-chief. I know so many veterans who feel so strongly about this. Having someone who reflects the values now I would like to turn it over to Chairwoman Francie Buzzy, the chair of the San Diego Democratic Party. Francie?
Thanks. Thank you, Nathan, for that and for the service that you've given to our country and the leadership that you provide here in San Diego. As the chair of the San Diego County Democratic Party and the former executive director of Run Women Run, an organization dedicated to electing pro-choice women, I am more than ready to make sure that Donald Trump stays out of the White House. In short, he is a complete disaster when it comes to women's issues, and it seems that he's bent on taking us back decades, and we have fought too hard and come too far to allow Donald Trump and the Republican Party to do that. We've seen time and again that his campaign has been marked by his backward positions on women's issues. You know, from accusing a female reporter of having blood coming out of her wherever, to saying that women should be punished for having abortion. And as if that wasn't enough, he also thinks that ensuring equal pay for women should just be left up to the marketplace, which has been the problem, not the solution. And he once suggested that family leave policy should actually be scaled back and noted that pregnancy was a real inconvenience for business. That is taking us backward, a place we don't need to go. But that's not a position unique to Trump. The entire Republican Party has moved to punish women by leading the charge to defund Planned Parenthood and deprive women of the health care centers that they need across this country. And he also opposes efforts to ensure equal pay for women and family paid leave. But Trump isn't just bad for women, he's also bad for seniors. He wants to repeal the Affordable Care Act and reopen the donut hole, which would cost seniors millions in prescription drug costs and leave millions of people again in this country without access to insurance or affordable health care. He calls for privatizing Social Security, which isn't a surprise since he's a businessman and thinks he can profit off of something like this, or other businessmen can, and we can't let that happen. And he wants to raise the retirement age to 70. He's repeatedly dismissed concerns about seniors being unable to afford retirement, and he tells them to just keep working. This is not a leader we can trust. This is someone who we simply cannot afford to have in the White House.